Hi, everybody. On July 4th, 1776, a very bold stand was taken for the first time in modern history with a single letter, the Declaration of Independence. Men of means risked their lives and their fortunes because they wanted to be free. They decided that it was worth it to them to oppose tyranny and speak out, not only for themselves, but for all the people at that time and for all of posterity. Many of them lost their lives and their fortunes so that you and I could be free. This was unprecedented in modern history. At the close of the Constitutional Convention of 1787, when queried as he left Independence Hall on the final day of deliberation, Benjamin Franklin was asked, "Have we got a republic or a monarchy?" Franklin replied, "A republic if you can keep it." Our republic has been assaulted throughout its existence by those who seek to control it and the world. This is not anything new. There have always been psychotic despots who desire power and control over others. It gives them a perverse thrill to wield that power. They consider themselves to be more intelligent and therefore entitled to literally steal from we the people. In 1910, the biggest bankers of the time plotted to install a central bank that they controlled, which would give them the ability to create money out of thin air. To fully understand how that was accomplished, I highly recommend the excellent book by G. Edward Griffin entitled The Creature from Jekyll Island. Jekyll Island is located off the coast of Georgia. That was where these bankers planned their Federal Reserve central bank coup. In 1913, our Congress and President Woodrow Wilson were purchased and manipulated by these same men. They passed the Federal Reserve Act to create the Federal Reserve Central Bank that has controlled and manipulated our world ever since. Those who were elected to serve the people sold their souls and by proxy sold out all of the people they represented, along with future generations of we the people. Woodrow Wilson later regretted his treason when he said, "A great industrial nation is controlled by its system of credit. Our system of credit is concentrated. The growth of the nation, therefore, and all our activities are in the hands of a few men. We have come to be one of the worst ruled, one of the most completely controlled and dominated governments in the civilized world. No longer a government by free opinion, no longer a government by conviction and the vote of the majority, but a government by the opinion and duress of a small group of dominant men." He was referring to the central bankers. Since that time, these same international bankers and their descendants pre-planned and financed both sides of every world war and every undeclared war that came up later, up into, including today. This is not conspiracy theory. These are verifiable facts. Unlike we the people who have been hard at work taking care of our families and trying to make ends meet, these criminal banking cartels and their myriads of corporations have been hard at work for many decades, infiltrating and buying influence in every institution of importance in our lives. These international criminals first tried to install their New World Order style government through the League of Nations after World War I, but that failed. They came up with the United Nations after World War II to help establish their New World Order world government. The United Nations crisis themes of global warming, later rebranded climate change after global warming could not be proven, overpopulation and confiscation of guns from the people are still being promoted by these traitors of humanity. After World War II in 1945, Operation Paperclip was initiated. This was a joint intelligence and military operation to bring thousands of Nazi scientists and social engineers into our country. These Nazis formed the CIA and NASA. Today, their Nazi ideology is alive and well in what is known as the Deep State or Dark Cabal. These people operate independently and outside of public scrutiny to bring about their New World Order where they plan to rule over us. President Eisenhower tried to warn us in his final speech before he left office when he referred to what he called the military-industrial complex.
We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
President Kennedy also tried to warn us in his speech to the American Newspaper Publishers Association in April of 1961, where he said that we were opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy. Please listen to his words.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
After the CIA and other cabal operatives assassinated President Kennedy, No other presidents have dared to speak against them. Presently, the cabal front people and operatives include, but are not limited to, an influential group of highly placed politicians, political action committees, all major banks, non-governmental organizations, think tanks, intelligence agencies, CEOs of multinational corporations, military leaders, religious leaders, healthcare industry providers, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, mainstream media outlets, and yes, many of them are in top positions of law enforcement and the judicial system at various levels from local to national. Along with their international partners, these criminals planned and orchestrated the events of 9/11 with the propagation of false news narratives indicating their weapons of mass destruction lies. Edward Bernays would have been proud of them. That event was utilized to precipitate the U.S. invasion of the Middle East, where millions of people were maimed, killed, or displaced, including thousands of our own military. The overflow refugee population who were bombed into the Stone Age were then shipped off all over the world to create chaos and disrupt cultures everywhere. This was totally by design, and we've been witnessing the dire consequences of those actions in many, many countries. We, the people, lost a lot of our freedoms under 9/11, under the guise of security and deceptively named laws like the Patriot Act. Do we really want to lose even more of our freedoms today? Of course not. We want the return of all of our freedoms. The current corona events are another example of psychological mind control operations by these same New World Order players. If you look at the actual statistics, you will quickly recognize that the worldwide threat is a manufactured and massively overhyped hoax designed to create fear. That doesn't mean that people didn't die and are dying now, but the response was a coordinated overreaction. It means that all of the actions were fully orchestrated and planned well in advance worldwide. Look up the Event 201 Global Pandemic Exercise, which took place back in October of 2019. Pay attention to who was involved in that exercise. When people are fearful, they are very, very easy to control and manipulate. We are experiencing a social psychological simulation which will test the ability of the cabal propaganda machine and give them the data to assess how many people will fully cooperate like drones and how many will oppose them. These globalists are sick and twisted and would like nothing better than to kill off a few billion of us. We also have billionaire-sponsored foundations that own patents on viruses, offering mandatory testing and vaccines, while they are heavily invested in the companies that will manufacture and sell those highly profitable vaccines. These people create the problems for humanity. Then they give us the solution that they want to impose, and then they profiteer from the misery they cause around the world. The names of these self-serving psychopaths are common knowledge these days because they are constantly promoted on television as experts and philanthropists. Nothing could be further from the truth. If you're paying any attention at all, you know who I'm talking about. If you made it thus far in the video, I congratulate you. So in conclusion, my friends, many of you swore a solemn oath to uphold the Constitution and defend it from enemies, both foreign and domestic. Will you defend our rights in the Constitution? Or will you blindly follow your orders, whether they violate our rights or not? Our most deadly enemies today are operating domestically. They are indeed embedded in high positions in all institutions of power and influence. If you took that sacred oath, it is your duty to protect and defend our God-given rights, guaranteed in the Constitution. No emergency proclamation has the authority to suspend or supersede any of our constitutional rights. If you have any doubts about that, please contact former Arizona Sheriff Richard Mack. He is the founder of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association at cspoa.org. Please do not participate in the destruction of our rights, even if the measures are deemed as temporary. As you can easily see, we are currently headed full speed into the New World Order's militarized police state, with high-tech constant surveillance and full-spectrum dominance by a very few psychopaths who think that they have the right to rule over us. Now is the time for all Americans to push back and stand up for our rights with non-cooperation. We the people are many and they are few. With the help of those brave sheriffs and law enforcement people who stand with us to uphold our rights, and all of you, we can stop this government overreach and take back our power. Many people are now clearly seeing through these globalist tactics. Because of the internet and social media, we have been able to debunk their mainstream media propaganda machines over and over again. To the men and women of law enforcement, I am asking all of you, for the sake of your families, your children, your grandchildren, and all the rest of us, to display the courage, the honor, the integrity, the diligence, and the determination that we all know you have to uphold our rights and yours under the Constitution and stand with we the people. God bless you all, and God bless our Republic, the United States of America.